everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. We're here joined today by Steve, and then we have Kat, and then I'm Luna. Steve, how are you today?
I am doing well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Good. I'm here. A little icky, but I'm here.
Oh,
Um, so you have some magnificent books that you've written. Some include The Camping Trip, Jimmy's Curse, The Ghost Hunter. So let's get right into the nitty gritty of the show, shall we? Let's start off by discussing The Camping Trip.
okay. The camping trip was started off loosely based off my childhood, and the image that's behind you, I got from the Pennsylvania Historical Society. I grew up right there in that area. That was my playground as a child. So that was one of the big inspirations for for the whole Lizardville Ghost Story series. And there's still a couple more books to come out in that series. So we're only halfway through. I got three more due out. Two of them are one is done and another one is on the way. So the conclusion is on the way. But yeah, it's set in the 1970s when a group of young guys go out along the banks of Big Fishing Creek for a camping trip. And we all know that when you go on a camping trip, things just go right. So the oldest guy, he wants to scare some of the younger guys that are there that day, and he tells them the legends of the Axe Factory murders, and that wakes up the spirit world, and all chaos breaks loose after that.
Ooh, that sounds so exciting.
Yeah, the those books have won several literary awards, and it's actually appeared in a twice in a Story Monsters Inc. Magazine. So I was really thrilled with the success that I've had with this series.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I've personally never been camping, but if there's gonna be a lot of creepy shit going on like that, I want to go camping now. I I can't wait to read that one. What kind of inspired you to write that Lizardville ghost stories? Was it like fiction, actuality?
Um, so it's a little bit of both. There are a lot of things in those stories that happened to me when I was a child, but a lot of it is fictional, really blown out of proportion. Because if I would have seen a ghost as a kid, I don't know if I would have ever gone back inside. It's just so. In the story, I play the character Johnny, and Johnny's just he gets out there and he'll do anything. But it's kind of a coming of age story. At the beginning, he's not sure what's going on, but he comes of age and really starts to tackle the responsibilities that come with what they've done by opening up the spirit world, and how do we get them back where they belong. But what really inspired me was I had written some middle grade chapter books. I was at a Barnes and Noble doing a book signing for one of my books called Blast Off, and I had a couple of probably 13, 14-year-old boys come up to me, and they looked at it and they're like, dude, this is like baby stuff. What do you got? Yeah, and I'm like, what do you say to that? And of course,
Wow.
the parents are looking at me like, oh no, 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 no. They're like, what do you got for us? And I told them, nothing at this time, but let me work on it. It was the exact same week I was talking with a friend that I went to school with, and he said, how many people can say they grew up in Lizardville? Now, I actually grew up on Lizardville Road. That's where I got the series title for it, on Lizardville. And as kids, like my mom, she was terrified all the time. People would say, where are you from? And we were from Mill Hall, Pennsylvania. But, out of us kids, we'd be like, oh, we're from Lizardville, because it sounded cool, you know. And my mom's like, "Stop that! We're not from Lizardville. We're from Mill Hall." And like, "No, no, no. We're from Lizardville. I don't care what my mom says. We're from Lizardville."
Lizardville, huh? Sounds like there's probably some lizards there.
I never saw one as a kid, so I've seen a lot of crayfish, and we used to go fishing and camping, but I've never seen a lizard.
False advertisement.
Exactly, exactly.
Kind of like how Greenland is not green and Iceland is green. False.
Yeah, I'd love to go to those countries one of these days.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. We gotta get more. We gotta get out more, right, Kat?
Definitely.
Speaking of getting out, what about Jimmy's Curse? I saw the cover for that, and that was very enticing to me. You had like crows on the cover or ravens. I can't tell. There's like a beautiful cemetery scene in the background. So, can you talk about a little bit of Jimmy's Curse?
Well, one of the final battles takes place in a cemetery, and I say battle because it's the kids against the ghost, and something's got to give there. But there's a few things on that cover. I helped design that cover. I loved it. The main headstone there, if you notice, there's a it's engraved. It says Thornhill. Robert Thornhill is one of the characters in the story, and he's the old factory owner, from back in the early 1900s, and of course he's a ghost now, but he's haunting the kids. He's one of the ghosts that woke up, and the crows play a significant part in the stories, right from the very first book of the camping trip, the whole way through, even a little bit in the one I'm finishing now, Return to Lizardville, because they're going back to Lizardville, you know, 30 years later after the fact. Now John's grown up and his kids are, in their early 20s, but that'll be the continuation and the final chapter in all of this.
Ooh, that sounds so good. How many chapters are you or books for this series are you planning on doing, Steve?
So this is going to be a trilogy. There's three in the series, the Lizardville Ghost Stories, but there are also three books in the Lizardville side stories. The first one was the Ghost Hunter, and the second one, which is, yes, that's the one there, yes, and that book, I was thrilled. I was nominated for Readers' Favorites. I was a finalist in the Readers' Favorites International Book Awards, and we took fifth place with that story. I was just super thrilled with that. I would have loved to finish a little higher, but just to even be recognized was very humbling. So that thrilled me. I've heard some criticism about my ending, but they told me stop reading Stephen King and quit trying to come up with endings. And I'm sorry, but I love Stephen King's work, and he's been a big influence on my life. So,
I thought it had a good ending. It came full circle. I
mm,
wasn't sure where it was headed, but I love the characters. I love the journey and beautiful writing. And it went like I picked it up I ordered it from Amazon like less than a week ago, and it arrived, and I was expecting, maybe to get through a couple of chapters, but no, I blew through it. I had to finish it. I had to know what was happening. I was like staying up late to finish it.
Wow.
It's a great read, and the characters are really lovable. And you stated earlier that you put yourself in a lot of your work. Uh, is Gerald kind of mirrored off of your childhood a little bit?
um, not really. And Gerald kind of the inspiration for him from him came from Sheldon Cooper. If you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, I wanted
Nice.
someone who was kind of awkward, um,
Hmm.
fit in, socially with people, and even was a little self-centered at times. So that's where that kind of inspired me. But I also tried to give him a little bit of his own personality too. I didn't want to, emulate him.
Hmm.
But that was the first book in the side stories. And then the next one is called Old Man Smithers. Old Man Smithers is a character that we meet in the camping trip. He also plays a pretty big role in the second story, Jimmy's Curse. But this is Old Man Smithers' story himself. He's a crotchety old man. He does not like the kids, and he just stay off my property type of old man. But I told his story. The edit it's already been through editing. I am just waiting on the final approval for the artwork and the covers, and then we'll get a release date. They said it should be about 6 months, so I'm looking like early September, early to mid September. I'm thinking that that'll be out. But Old Man Smithers is just my wife really enjoyed it. She said it really brought his character to life and why he was the way he was in that story. Um, just kind of brings him, like I said, full circle. He's just a crotchety old man, and there's a reason why, which I don't want to give that away.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I wanted to ask about the ghost hunter. Does that all tie into Jimmy's curse also?
Not as much. That was kind of a story that I really wanted to do as a standalone. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was picked up by Four Horsemen's Publications, and they wanted me to do some side stories because it's in the same area, in the same part of the country. It ties in that aspect. I mean, even in the Ghost Hunter, there's a scene where, and Kat can attest to this, that they're going into a small town and they're driving in, and the one character's like, "Well, that's an odd name for a town, Lizardville." So I mean, and they even actually visit the old axe factory. And I really won't. But I don't want to say any more than that. But it really all ties in together in a sense. It's just a different character, different time. It's early in Jimmy's Curse. The kids are at the library. They're doing a little research. They want to know how can we get these spirits back where they belong on the other side. So they go to the library. They find a couple of books written by an author named Gerald Dupickle. And Gerald
Nice.
Dupickle is the main character in The Ghost Hunter, and how he became a ghost hunter and what inspired him to write some books on the subject. And kind of a funny story on that. My wife and I were going down the road one day, and I know my wife thinks I'm kind of crazy and out there sometimes, but we were sitting there at a red light. A truck pulls up. It's got advertisements on the side. It's got a big pickle jar. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, pickles. She looks at me like, what? And I'm like, Gerald Dupickle, Dupickle, Gerald Dupickle. I like it. And she's like, what are you talking about? You know, I'm going to write Gerald's story. That's how it all started with Gerald Dupickle's story and how he
Oh,
became.
that's funny.
You never know when inspiration's going to hit you. I always carry a little tablet with me and little notepads, and if I don't have one handy, I've got my phone. I start talking and taking notes in there. So
That's pretty cool. We have Brian say, "Hey, Cataluna, Steve is amazing person and author. I had the pleasure of meeting him at Sci-Fi Barto, and I'm
yep.
looking forward to reading The Ghost Hunter." Ooh. Hello, Brian. How are you? Nice to see you again. But yeah, that's so fantastic. Now, is there I know you write the camping trip and the Lizardville ghost stories. Are you gonna do like any other like topic? Is there like a genre that you're working on that you want to do next aside from ghost stories?
Um, so first of all, let me say thanks for tuning in, Brian. I really appreciate that. It was just a good shout. I talked with him at Sci-Fi Barto. He's a fantastic guy. Just love chatting with him. Never enough time at these events to really talk with the people. You know, when you meet them. But to answer your question, Luna, yes, I'm working on a lot of different stories. I'm wrapping up the Lizardville ghost stories. Um, right now, there'll be I'm working on the fifth story in that one. I do have one more that I would like to do, and then, but I may end up jumping a little bit ahead of myself. I've had this itch in the back of my head. It's just been burning me, and it's going to be like a psychological thriller, more on the adult level. Um,
Ooh.
Nice.
away on that at this time, but I'm really excited. I just started, writing a bunch of notes, and then I ended up writing the first chapter, which was like 4,700 words, and I was like, okay, I got to get back and finish my other stuff before my publisher gets upset that I'm not meeting my deadlines. But no, I'm really excited to get into that. I'm probably going to hold off on the third book for the side stories on the Lizardville and bring that one into it because I'd like to have that out in early 2025. But I can say that the title I'm looking at would be The Mirror.
The Mirror.
Yes.
Ooh. Is this a Delight and Fright exclusive? You name dropped your book title? Whoa. Thanks so much. We feel so honored and special that you would name drop the name possibly of your new book. How exciting. The Mirror. A
As long
psychological.
as long as the publishers would agree with me, and I don't think they will. Once they hear the story and know what I'm doing with it, that's going to be pretty.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm so excited to read. I love psychological thrillers. We were just talking with another with a movie director not too long ago, and me and Kat were discussing with the movie director how we enjoy the psychological element of horror horror storytelling. So it's pretty fantastic that you're bringing that element into the your book writing. I think it'll be really interesting to see play out.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be like a couple of standalone stories I would like to do. I don't know if they're going to be in a series, but it's just this one idea is just it's burning in the back of my head. I've got to get it out, and I'm excited to actually finish up the one I'm working on and get that turned in, and then you know dive right into this one because it's got to be told.
Yeah, I guess when writers, we've spoken to a few writers, Kat, right? That they mentioned like, oh, when I got this itch, I gotta write it, and I gotta put it down. Do you get that? Do you get that inkling very often? Do you like get an idea and you're like, where's the paper? I need to write this down before
It
it's gone.
it comes in weird at the weirdest times. It really does. Like I said, the Gerald Dupickle, the ghost hunter, came out of the blue just from a pickle truck. It inspired that entire story, and then the very first story I ever wrote, which was a children's story, "We Can't Move at Christmas," was inspired by a dream. You know, 12 years ago, my company was downsizing that I worked for. They were moving everybody up to Ohio, and I just wondered what would happen if these kids, this brother and sister would write letters to Santa Claus in preparation for the holidays, and the same day that the mailman picked them up, Dad comes home and says, "Hey, in order to keep my job, we have to move cross country at Christmas." And the kids are like freaked out, like, "No, no, we can't move at Christmas." And this dream was so vivid to me. I could see these characters in my head. Um, it just and my wife, she was like, what are you talking about these people?" And I said, "Look, I got to write this story." So I started writing it, and the first thing she said to me one night was, "Who are you chatting with online?" I'm like, "I'm not chatting with anybody. I told you I'm writing this story." I had always wanted to be a writer. I loved Stephen King from the time I first read Carrie, and I just it was something I put it on hold for a long, long time. I got married, I raised a family, and I just put my dreams on hold. And then that story got me back into it, and I wrote everything down. And Dad's trying to tell these kids, he says, "Don't worry about it. Santa's got this elite group of elves called the Family Moving Department, and they track kids moving all year long." And that's what got me started back on the writing career, and that was 12 years ago. And I'm actually going to do a rewrite of that, and with some big hopes on that. We're going to tweak the story quite a bit. I was talking with a gentleman, I can't drop any names, but they are looking at that possibly for like a script, a movie script. I've heard,
Oh,
you hear these things a lot, and you wonder, will it ever happen? And years go by and nothing ever happens. So I just, when it really happens,
yeah.
I'll be thrilled. But
Well, if you can dream it, let's get it working. Now, you do horror stuff and you do kids books. Would you ever combine both and make like a dark children's fantasy book? Like that'd be kind of interesting.
so a lot of my stories are based on our travels, and we were fortunate to spend some time in Italy. One of my kids' books, they're just middle grade chapter books, good, wholesome stories. All of them have some sort of message in it. The Adventures in Italy has a anti-bully message and good sportsman message. Over the Falls is another Gabby and Maddox story that when we visited Niagara Falls, that one has a woman empowerment, a girl empowerment thing. Girls can do anything that guys can do, probably even better. But just a lot of fun facts in there. And to answer your question, so I'm doing a show in May, actually next month, up at Savannah Comic Con, and we're going to stick around for an extra week and visit haunted Savannah. And I was actually thinking about, Gabby and Maddox visit haunted Savannah.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Normal in there for the younger group.
Yeah, it's still spooky, but not too spooky where, you it's still within the audience, but still give them a little bit of like a Halloweeny kind
Yeah.
of vibe, you know? I like that. Now, Chris writes, "Here's to hoping that your movies go better for you than poor Dean Koontz."
Yeah.
Wow. What a jab at that one. Thanks, Chris. Woo.
Uh, I haven't got one of them done yet. So I mean, we'll just keep my fingers crossed and go from there. Can't put
Yeah, of
can't
course.
count your chickens before the eggs are hatched, as they always
Yeah,
say.
no, yeah, definitely, definitely. Because if every person that came to you said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make this into a movie script," and then you start financing stuff and thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have all this money from this movie script," and it never happens, then you're like kind of screwed. You know what I mean? Because you
Oh,
spent all this money and invested all this soon to be money that isn't coming. So it's kind of a dance that you have to do. How have you balanced that in your life, Steve? Like making sure that you had your passion to write the book, but you were taking care of stuff. Was there a time where you kind of was a little messy for you, or were you always like very balanced?
not sure I'm really understanding the question. What do you mean by well balanced?
I mean like if you're, you know what I mean, as a writer, you do have to balance bills and household, but still make sure that your dream is alive to be able to make more. So, how was that balancing to make sure that you pay the bills, but you're still doing the art that you want to do? Like, how do you manage that?
Well, you keep two jobs. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I
I
do a lot
see.
of panels and stuff, and I know like there's a lot of authors that I know that have have a day job. I'm one of them, and I'm close. I feel I'm very close to going full time writer. That's the dream. It's been the dream, but it's a scary jump. It really is. It's something that you look at the numbers and you keep saying, "Am I ready? Am I ready?" Then sometimes that imposter syndrome hits you, like, you know, why, like you have that one moment you're saying, "Okay, wow, that was brilliant." It was a great idea. Next minute, you're thinking, oh my God, that's crap. So, it's having the confidence to make that jump. I still enjoy what I do for a day job, but it's tough because I come home, I we eat, and I jump right into my office here and I write for a couple hours. I spend most of my Sundays in here when I'm not at shows or appearances. My calendar's been pretty full this year already, and it's going to continue that way for the rest of the year because I want to continue to find new readers. Um, but you just have to keep
True.
putting out there, and only you're going to make your dreams come true. They don't just happen. You have to work hard for them, and I truly believe that hard work, pays off in the end.
Oh, that's so sweet. Now our beautiful viewers can have a nice, you know, advice from you to follow their dreams, but make sure they work hard at it. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Steve, for that.
So Steve, did you just like to start? How I'm interested because that's something I'd like to do as well. How did you get started with the balance with your life, your work life, and then having time to write? Did you just like lock yourself in the room for 2 hours a night and just not come out? Like how did it kind of start, and then what did you find worked, I guess, and what didn't?
Well, I used to have a little desk that sat right out there in the living room. When my wife enjoys her television at night, it's her way of unwinding, and I would sit there, and try to write. It was very distracting because I like to write in silence, dead silence. Some people use music. Some people have whatever it is that works good for them. That's great. Myself, I like silence, and it was a couple years back when my wife said, you've got books in this room, you've got books in that room, you got stuff here. We had an extra bedroom. We cleaned it out. She put in all these bookcases behind me. They got me a new desk. Everybody in the family chipped in and really helped make my dreams come true. And
Oh,
so all my stuff's in here now, and it's my little sanctuary. I face the window so I can look outside, and it's my writing space, and it really helps me to focus. And I try to spend I like to allot a certain amount of time. I try to spend 2 hours a day at least writing. My goal is 1,000 words a day. This week alone, from last Sunday to today, I'm at 7,500 words for the week. So again, it's if you don't put the time in, you can't expect the rewards if you're not going to put the time in.
I like that message. And that's awesome. I can relate to you, Steve, because if there's a lot going on and I have like studying or whatever it is, and it's like I'm just like, go away. Let me have the inner monologue in my brain to process this task that I'm doing, whether it be writing or reading or the outside stimulus is just too much, and I just gotta focus on that and can't focus on that task at hand. So I'm the same way, Steve. I totally see where you're coming from, and I'm glad that you were able to get your own little space there to be able to write, because your stuff has been phenomenal, and we're super excited to see all the fun stuff you're gonna do in the future.
I've got a lot of ideas. I just every time a new idea comes to mind, I write down as many notes as I can. I've got about 14 or 15 ideas in folders here. It's finding the time to do it. I keep telling, and that was one of the reasons I really wanted. I searched for a traditional publishing company. Four Horsemen graciously picked me up. I was thrilled with that. I was with a company called Dark Cloud Books. They went out of business after COVID hit. They just couldn't make it anymore. But Four Horsemen, it's been great. I am obligated to two books a year for 5 years. The pressure's there. So I write better, I guess, under pressure. I'm down to 9 weeks to finish, and I still got about 20,000 words. So about 2.5, 3 weeks before I can do my round of editing and turn it over to the editors, try to make it sound decent enough that they don't kick it back and say, "What kind of crap is this?" Yeah, because you always wonder what they're going to think. These are the
Yeah, of
that,
course.
that read
Do,
these things all the time. But
do you use the same editors that you used before COVID when you had the different publishing company, or did the editors change now with the new publishing company?
so what I liked that the Four Horsemen have done, yes, they have their own editing staff. They have um, their own illustrators and all of that kind of work. The same guy is doing the audiobooks. The narrator does all of them. They've assigned one guy to do the audiobooks. There's a woman who does um, the children's books for me, but I work with the same editor with Four Horsemen. It's Gail Stagmeyer, and she's fantastic. I love working with her. She's got a lot of great ideas, and it just helps to polish, the work and get it out there. Even the CEO, Erica Lance of Four Horsemen, we have meetings with her, like at least once a year when I was presenting her some of the ideas I have for next year on a series, and she made a comment. Well, what if they did this? What if they did that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. And I started taking some more notes because she's also a writer, so she's very talented. She threw in some great suggestions, and we all just feed off each other. But yeah, I work with the same staff now. It's different. I feel like from the one publishing house to this one, I feel like I've gone from like a high school football team to a college level team. It's just that much difference. These guys are really professionals at what they do. So I'm thrilled to be working with them, and I love it, and I really appreciate the opportunity that they've given.
Oh, that sounds like you have a good publishing company that supports you, and that's always very nice to hear that our favorite writers are getting the love that they deserve from their publishing company. That's always very happy
Yeah.
news.
And I
So,
had a question, Steve, for this book. All the places, the locations, they felt so real. I know one of them was. Are a lot of the haunts in this and maybe your other books based on actual haunted places?
Um, all of those were made up in that
Wow.
story. The locations, the towns were not. That's probably what makes it feel real. A lot of that stuff, when I'm writing, it's weird. So in 2019, I went to a big writing conference called Inkers Con out in Dallas, and I really felt out of place. There was 100 or so writers there. 95% of them were New York Times bestsellers, and they just embraced me and made me feel like I was part of the team. I learned so much from them, and I loved it. And one of the things that they taught me was listen to the characters. So I don't know how many times when I'm sitting here writing a story, I do a brief outline because I'm kind of, I don't know if you ever heard the term of plotters, and have you
No,
ever heard the term of a plantser?
no.
A pantser is someone who like flies by the seat of his pants and just writes a
Oh,
story. And I'm kind of a plotter and pantser at the same time. I do an outline. Currently, the outline that I've had for the story I'm working on had 21 chapters. I am 19 chapters deep into it, and it's going like different direction than what I actually thought it would because I listen to what they're telling me. Sometimes the story just takes on a different take than what you originally thought it would, and it's great when it does that. It makes writing easier. So in that story there, it was something that I kind of had a beginning, how I knew how I wanted it to begin. You'll notice there was some references in there to a bird and the worm,
yes.
and that was an inspiration I had from a group that I like to listen to called The Used, and it's a hard rock band, and they have a song
Yes.
called The Worm, and
I'm a
it's
fan of theirs. I saw them live. It was very awesome.
so if you haven't listened to them, run out and get one of their albums. They're really great. I love them.
They are.
The Bird and the Worm is one of the things I kind of wanted to incorporate a little bit of that different take on it than their song for sure. but it was something that traumatized Gerald when he was a kid. And at first, I mean, one of my kind of funny story here. One of the ladies that does some beta reading for me, she doesn't particularly care for horror. And the minute she started reading that, the way it opened up, she's like, I can't read this. It's too scary. I'm like, get past the first page, please. And she did. So she was like, okay, I'm good. And I don't really write a lot of gore. I try to write that spine tingling, edge of your seat suspense. I
Hmm.
want to keep you guessing the whole way through. But no, there was a lot of places in there. I mentioned Lamar, Lock Haven, Mill Hall. All of those places were real. State College. They're all places that right there where I grew up. Some of the older buildings, I gave them a different name. I don't remember what they were called, but in my head, I knew where I was talking about, and I know the
And there
location.
seems to be a lot of what you were talking about in this book as well, a lot of libraries. I'm wondering, did you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer? The bad things always happen in the libraries, and they always like went and did research. So I kind of got that feeling.
I gotta say, I've never watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm sorry. I just that's a show I never really watched. I've heard a lot about it. I never really watched it. I wasn't really a vampire type of guy. My wife's big on Twilight. I always make fun of her. I'm like, vampires don't sparkle. I'm sorry.
No, no, they don't.
It's her favorite show, and I'll moan and groan, and it'll come on
That's
TV
funny.
and she'll be like, "Guess what's on?" I'm like, "No, I hear the music. Trust me, I'm going to be in my office. I'm going to be writing. It's a good day to write." So,
Wow, that's hilarious. What I was gonna ask Steve, if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, we need you. We're gonna give you X to Y amount of C worth of money, um, to write us a movie script. Here's the idea, and go." Would you take that offer? Would you go with it, or were you only want to write what you want to write?
I've never been approached like that. I think it would be very difficult to write somebody else's ideas. Like I said, a lot of it comes to me. It's the voices in my head. It's the things that are talking to me. It's difficult. Um, the Ghost Hunter was a difficult story for me to write because I really knew the Lizardville ghost stories. The, the camping trip, Jimmy's Curse, Return to Lizardville, which isn't out yet. They're all part of me where I grew up. The Ghost Hunter really wasn't going to be that way, and it was a little more difficult for me to write because they weren't talking to me. Once I got into it more, it took over and talked with me and carried me through. But at first, it was not the way I had planned it to go. The ending was actually kind of a surprise to me as well. I kind of had one ending for it. I was thinking about possibly, a sequel or a trilogy out of that. Some people even say, well, you still could, because Gerald could,
Yeah,
he could,
definitely could.
without giving anything away.
Exactly.
Cat knows what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
but
I love that it took on a life of its own, right? The story once you started, and
yeah,
it's becomes alive. That's what's always amazing about art to me.
yeah, it's. I never really thought that that would happen. I've heard people talk about it. They just talk to me, and it is a strange, weird experience. I'll be sitting here writing, and I can actually visualize everything that I'm typing in my head. I can see it happening, and it makes it. And it's like, when my wife will say, "Okay, dinner's ready, time to eat." 5 minutes later, are you coming or not? I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing sometimes, and I love the characters so much. Like I start crying when something bad happens to them. I'm like, I gotta see her.
there's one scene in the camping trip that still chokes me up. You know, and I every time
Ooh.
tears in my eyes.
So
For you.
I was gonna ask Steve, something that has happened to me is I do write stories occasionally for my role play with my group. I do D&D. I do a few things here and there on World of Warcraft, etc. I wrote a story for a character we were supposed to kill. It was an orc. But I made his story so sad that when the time came to sacrifice him, which that's why we wrote him, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like I wrote his backstory so well that I'm like, I can't kill him off. I just can't. So has that ever happened to you where you were like, all right, I'm gonna make this character do something, and then once you flesh out the character, you're like, no, that's too sad. I can't do it to them.
Well, let me just say I don't have any problem killing a character.
Ooh.
Free, free.
Wow, Steve. You're just murdering everybody. You don't care.
It's just got
Well,
dark. I like it. I like it.
You got dark, Steve. I thought you were gonna be like very sympathetic toward your characters, but no, you're like, fuck them all. Let's kill them all. Let's murder them. That's cool. I respect that.
you know, part of a writer is to tug at people's emotions. And when I've had people come back and send me messages, I've had people, leave reviews like, I can't believe this happened. He had me in tears. That's the biggest compliment you can give me. I made you cry from a story. I mean, that touches my heart right there. That's why I do it. That's why I do it. I love it for that reason.
Aw.
And
Yeah,
like even
I
now, I
like
find
that.
myself thinking about these characters and like, I wonder what they're up to now. You know?
I may have to write a sequel to that one then.
I think so too. So, I wanted to share Steve's website if you guys are interested to read any of what we've been discussing. You guys can go right ahead. Oops, let me show it. Where'd it go? No. Ah, I broke the stream. Oh my god, what did I do? What did I
Nice,
do?
nice. Oh, I like this. Hey, we're doing a wave. Hey, hey.
Oh no. What have I done? Oh, here we go. There you go.
Yay.
Sorry, guys. I broke the stream. It's never happened before, but here's a delight and fright first. So yeah, Lizardville Ghost Stories. You can order them. There's a nice little order now button. You can read all about. And if you do purchase any of these, could we get them autographed? Can our viewers get them autographed?
Yeah, if you buy them through my website, yes, I can autograph them. Uh,
And you can meet him at any of these places right here, Spookella. Ooh, see you there.
yes,
Uh, at the Clearwater Library Comic Con. Ooh. And at the Savannah Comic Con. Yeah, so if you guys want to meet Steve, come on down and get purchase some books, get them autographed. It's always a good day, right? When you meet your local awesome writers. You have a blog? Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I really don't keep up with as much as I should.
Oh, it's okay. And
You
It's
got a
then
lot of writing to do. That makes
it's
sense.
yeah.
it's work.
Ooh, I can buy a t-shirt? Whoa. That's cool. Lizardville Ghost Stories. That's
Ghost
cool.
Story t-shirts. There's
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And then you can read more about Steve and his fascination of killing stuff. So,
wow. Hope that's not the police at my front door. Thanks.
oh, well, you are a writer, so I guess that's important, right?
Yeah, that's why I always use the private section on my search bar when I'm doing my research, so there's no history of what I'm looking at. So it might
Ooh.
be weird.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes if you're gonna write a story and you're like knives, and you're like, oh yeah, great, now the cops are gonna know. But it's like, no, I'm writing this horror book. See, that's
Uh,
not a good alibi.
well, if anybody buys, I mean, my books are available at Barnes and Noble, anywhere online, anywhere books are sold, Amazon included. Um, Wherever you like to buy them, if you buy them there and you bring them to an event that I'm at, I'd be happy to sign them. So,
Aw, he's
Yay!
so nice,
I gotta
Steve.
get this one signed one day. Oh,
and you come
I've been to
Aw.
Savannah.
you
It's
turned that,
nice.
that
There's a lot of haunted places.
upside down already.
Yeah, that's true. You can meet Steve in Savannah, Georgia, and get some ghost hunting. That's always a fun day.
Uh,
All
yeah.
right, it was Steve. And Kat, do you guys have anything else that you want to mention on the stream before we take it off the air?
Um,
No, but it's just been such a pleasure talking with you, Steve, and I really enjoy your work, and I look forward to reading more.
well, thank you, Kat, Luna, both of you. I really appreciate being here. Um, just to all the readers out there, thank you. I love the fact that many of you love my work and read my stories. Thank you all. You're the one that makes all this possible. I couldn't do it without you.
Oh, Steve. He's so sweet, but then wants to murder us all. I don't approve, Steve. Just kidding. I'm just teasing you.
I'm gonna write her name down and put her in a book.
Oh, I'm glad it's not Death Note though, because I'd be very in trouble if you had Death Note and wrote my name in it. Damn it.
No, I people ask me all the time. They say, where do you come up with character names? And I was like, sometimes they just come to me, but a lot of them, some of the guys that I used to do some of these adventures with as a kid, I changed all of their names, but a lot of them are in the stories, and they're like, I am. Like, well, you have to read, man. You have to read. They don't read my books, so they have no idea whether they're in it or not. I love it. I'm like, you guys are just horrible. They don't like, hey, I'm too busy watching TV or playing video games. So for all of those
Oh
who
no.
still read, I love you guys. I really do.
Aw. Well, thank you. We love you back in return, Steve. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode. Next week, we're going to debut and premiere our talk that we had with Cat. Can you remind me his name? I'm like, or I don't know. The the butterfly queen. Thank you so much, brain. I'm sorry. I've been working 12-hour shifts. I'm not having a great time, but my brain's fried, as you can tell. But yeah, we will debut Butterfly Queen next Thursday. So you guys don't want to miss that interview. There's a few things that happened during that interview that you guys will have to listen in for.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. A lot of shenanigans, like always.
Always.
Always. All right, Steve, take care. Have a wonderful evening. We will talk to you next time. Come on back on the show.
I'd love to come back. Thank you both for having me on the show. It has been a blast.
You're welcome. Have a good night. See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, boils and ghouls. It's your old pal, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I want to thank you for listening to Delight and Fright with your hosts, Luna and Cat, a podcast for outcasts.